Hello, everybody, and welcome to this ForNAV webinar. I'm Jan, and to help me today, I have Jennifer and Michael with me. So let's get started, and let's start by taking a look at who should consider ForNAV. If we put on the customer hat first, we see customers sometimes complaining in standard Business Central can be rather expensive. We also see that when you have done these modifications of the built-in reports, upgrading can be painful because you need to do a lot of things as part of that process. And of course, customers are not really convinced that they should pay for this. We also have challenges with some customers who want to move to cloud or who has moved to cloud and can no longer access their local files. Could be that they are sharing like a photo library or document library with somebody else. Could also be that they have some machinery that can only deliver data to a local or network drive. We also see, and we of course fully respect, that a lot of especially internal reporting takes place in Excel, and there are some customers are challenged with it's pretty difficult and it's very time consuming to move data from Business Central to Excel. And finally, we have customers who are challenged with printing if they want to print to a real printer, which you of course still do if you want to print labels or packaging slips or things like that goes with the product. And in standard Business Central, you get a preview and then you have to go to the screen and select the printer. And of course, some customers think that's a pretty tough process to go through. If we take a look at this from a partner perspective, working with reports in standard Business Central very often requires developer resources. And that's, of course, rather expensive, but it also means that in many cases, developers are not too happy with actually doing report work. Of course, they get the feedback from customers that this is expensive, which partners have to deal with. If you use Word as a reporting tool, you will quickly run into a number of limitations. And then probably most importantly, partners have a challenge quoting and predicting a report project. And unfortunately, in many cases, they end up too low, which of course then again leads to either losing money or having a tough discussion with the customers afterwards. So these are just some of the reasons why people should even consider to look at ForNAV. So what is ForNAV? Well, it's a solution for document handling and for document distribution, of course, in Business Central. And then we have based everything on what we call our all-in-one license. So that means that when you buy a ForNAV license, you get everything included. We want it to be fast to implement, easy to use, and we want to have a price point that is affordable. So that's not really the reason for not choosing a ForNAV solution. Some people ask this question, are reports still relevant? And when we talk to customers and get feedback from partners and customers, we hear that is a clear yes. It's still in many cases business critical to have the right documents, even though, of course, most people today send them out as PDF. They are part of the customer's view to the outside world, but there are also a lot of requirements for having the right content on these external documents. And that's not just about fonts and colors, but that's also about things like serial numbers, batch numbers, custom information, etc., etc. And of course, in some businesses, terminology is also very important. So it's not in all industries that a customer is called a customer, but that might be a client or something else. And again, in standard Business Central, if you want to change these captions or this terminology, that's a pretty tough process. And we have a solution how to make that much more easy to work with. So what is it you get with ForNAV? it's basically these two columns where on the left side you have the document handling and on the right side you have document distribution. First and foremost, you get a set of just about 100 standard reports. They are primarily the external documents, so that's all the sales documents, it's purchase document, service document, labels with and without barcodes, and of course a number of statistics and other kind of reports. These standard reports, they can be used out of the box. I will claim that they are nicer than what you get with standard BC. But of course, a lot of the customers choosing ForNAV, they do it because they are able to have these reports modified or even building new reports from scratch. And that's where our designer comes into play. Our designer tool is a easy to use tool, and it has some very strong advantages. One of them is our template technology. So instead of having all reports as individual reports, you can actually take things that are similar across a number of reports and put them into a template. We have done that in our report pack. An example is the sales documents, where you have a template. Typically you have, when you have sales documents, you have an invoice, you have a credit note, you have an order confirmation, and in most cases these are 95+% the same. And that's why we did this technology, so you can actually have most of it in a template, so you only have to maintain it in one place. A template is just a report, so you can also build your own reports. Then more recently, we got a request from a number of customers saying that, well, it's fine, you have the designer, but we don't really want to design reports. We just want to add some information that is missing from time to time. And that's why we did what we call personalized content, which we will show you a little later in this webinar. But in short, it's about being able to add information to a document, for instance, an invoice or an order confirmation. That could be a greeting. Hello, we are still here. It's summer. Have a great summer. But it could also be something like, we have a campaign we want to run. So please take a look at this. We can see you bought this, so why not have a look at this as well? So that's the kind of thing you can do with personalized content. Then, as I mentioned, some customers are challenged moving to the cloud because they still need to access files locally, either on the local hard drive or on a network drive. And that's why we have our file service capability, where we still offer, of course, respecting all kinds of security and user access, but you still have the option to access local files even when you run in a cloud environment. We also learned recently, not recently, but in the last couple of years, that e-invoicing and e-documents are becoming more and more important, and also handling these and sending and receiving these documents via the PayPal network is becoming more and more relevant, and soon it will be a requirement in many countries. It's an EU initiative, but it's also being used in many other places of the world. And as you can see, this is on both sides of this drawing, because we can of course handle incoming documents, turn them into purchase invoices, or compare them with if there's a purchase order. And on the right side, we can also distribute these documents. Right now, it's typically the invoice. But we know that very soon there will be many other documents that also needs to be sent via the PayPal network. Continuing on the right side, we have direct print capability. I briefly mentioned this challenge with printing things from Business Central, and that is all solved by our direct print capability. So you can set up that certain users or certain reports should always go to a specific printer. And you can even set up that this can be totally without any human interaction. For instance, if you want these 100 labels for your boxes that need to be sent out, then that can automatically be sent to a label printer in the warehouse. People are sending out their documents via email, and with ForNAV you can build and maintain your email, your subject, your header, and also the distribution list, who you're sending this to. And it's not just plain text; it's actually a rich editor, so you can do a lot of cool things there. Then we have our Excel integration, which is unique compared to most competitors, because what we do is we aggregate the data before we send them to Excel. That means it's less data, so it's faster, and there's no risk of the solution timing out. And also what's important is that compared to other Excel integrations, they typically send data to Excel, and then you have it in Excel and you're on your own there. But with our solution, you can actually still drill back into BC and see where a specific amount comes from. So you can get that specification even though you have your data in Excel. And finally, we have an archiving option. There are some customers who want to archive everything they print, and that is also possible with ForNAV. But let's jump and take a look at how this works. So here I have a Business Central sandbox standard. The only thing I did is that I installed ForNAV from AppSource. And with that, I get all the standard reports that I talked about earlier. So all the sales report, purchase reports, finance reports, internal finance report, but also documents like a statement and a reminder and so on. I have the templates that I mentioned. We'll come back to that shortly. Some more statistics, some labels, service reports, Excel reports. So you can see it's a very long list. But of course, typically you're not printing from a list like this. You are printing from where you are in Business Central. And as part of installing ForNAV, you have the option to either replace all report selections with ForNAV, or you can do a manual report selection, so you can have a combination of existing Business Central reports and new ForNAV reports. Of course, in my demo environment, I replaced everything with ForNAV. So if I go to, let's say, sales orders, and we can just take this one, and I can print an order confirmation like this. You can zoom in a little bit. There you see how, in this case, we believe an order confirmation should look like. If you think this is a simple layout, you're absolutely right, because that has been a kind of a design criteria. We didn't want to overcomplex this because we believe it's easier to add if something is missing versus having to look at a lot of parameters and get rid of a lot of things that you don't need. Here on the left side, you have these green leaves. That's because we have the option to add a watermark or a background. On our website, there are a number of standard watermarks you can include, but these are just simple PDF files. So if you have a customer with a need for a specific watermark or a background, then you just save it as a PDF, link it to the report, and then you have your background or your watermark. A couple of other things here on this layout. You probably noticed that there's a little extra space here. That's because there's room for a discount, but in this case there's no discount. And then of course we don't show the caption either. Again, that might sound like a very small thing, but that is something that is very annoying for people if they don't have this as a standard thing. Of course, we also handle things like page number and counting. And this of course also works if you are printing a set or bulk of invoices, then the counter will be zeroed for every new document. But let's take a look at how we can actually modify this report. And now I'm looking at the order confirmation, but I would actually like to work a bit on my sales template. So not just changing the order, but also changing the other sales documents. So let me just go to the ForNAV setup. And this is also where you add the document watermark. You can also add your own logo. We have opened up for PDF as a format for pictures and graphic. The benefit of that is that PDF is vectorized graphic, which means you can scale up and down as much as you want. It will still be readable by the it will still be very sharp when you look at it. Same thing with barcodes. We also have the option to add barcodes, of course, and that's also vectorized graphic, so you can scale it up and down as much, and it will still be readable. But let's come back to that in a second. Let me go in and take a look at the sales template. And what happens now is that it opens in the ForNAV designer tool, which looks like this. So let's just take a quick look at what we see here. So here on the left side, I have different standard controls. I can add like a text box or a picture box. I can add some basic graphic components. I can even add a new data item if I want to. And if you are used to work with reports in Standard Business Central, you know that process can also be a bit cumbersome, because in Standard Business Central you have to define your data set first, and then you can work with the report afterwards. And if you later want to add something like a new field, you have to modify your data set first, and then you can modify the report afterwards. That all happens in one process in the ForNAV designer. In this case, I have a sales document which consists of a header and a line, and that means I have full access to all fields, of course also all captions, and that also includes if you made extensions to any of these fields. And this goes for the header, and it goes for the line. Of course, I can also handle different properties, and we only show what's relevant. So if I select a group, I have one set of properties. If I select a field, I have another set of properties. Of course, you have all the relevant tools for alignment and layout and fonts and so on. And then if I scroll through the report here, you will see that it's pretty easy to understand what's going on. I have my header, I have some lines, I have a transport header and footer. If this goes across several pages, I have a total on one page, and then I start the next page with the same total. I have a section here with some VAT stuff, and of course, if I work on a US database, this is sales tax. And then I have some company information here at the bottom. But let's try to do some very simple modifications. So let me select a group of fields here, and let's just simply make them red. I can also go in and say I want to add a new field. So let me just take the order number, and then I get these lines to help me position things. And then just for the fun of it, let's say we want this as a barcode, and then I have my order number code. Without any coding, without any installing or installment of fonts or anything like that. It's all part of the designer, and this barcode is also saved embedded with the report, so you don't have to think about this if you later move this report from one instance to another or whatever you come across. Of course, I can select all the kind of barcodes you can imagine, including matrix and QR code and whatever. That is all part of this. I can at any point in time do a preview, but I can also say I'm happy with this, so let me just save it. And let me go back to where I started. Remember, I modified the template. I didn't actually touch the auto confirmation. But if I print the auto confirmation again, the one we saw in the beginning, you will see now that I have this information in red and I have my order number up here as a barcode. So this was just a very simple example of how you can go in and modify a report, in this case in our report standard package, but I hope you got an idea how easy it is to work with these things. But let's say I don't want to work with a designer. I'm an end user and I just want to add some basic information to some of my documents. So Jennifer, how do we do that?
I can show you the personalized content so that
Great.
you can see how it works. So let me share my screen. So can you see my screen now?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. Last year, some partners came to us asking if we had a solution for adding pre and post text, something that would let their customers easily attach a short message to documents. Jan mentioned it before. It can be a special promotion, it can be a holiday greetings, or yeah, whatever. We could see that there is a need, so we decided to build a solution for it. But when we got into it, we realized the need goes beyond just pre and post text. Customers also want to design their email layouts to match their own preferences and branding. So we decided to implement that as well. And yes, we know that some of you already have your own solution for this. But what we kept hearing from partners was that they would love to get rid of it, because all of you know keeping a custom solution running takes a lot of ongoing effort. So, but let me show you what we came up with and yeah, how easy it is to add a pre and post text. In Business Central, we have a new page called Text Templates. Here I can create text templates. Let me open it. So we will create a new one. So let me do that. And first of all, I need a name. We will name it webinar. And now I can choose a language. Or we can leave it blank if we want. If we leave it blank, it won't be filtered by language, then it's for all the languages in Business Central. Next, we need the information, or we can have a description here, but I leave that blank. Next, we need the information about the table. We can search for it. I want to have my text for the sales invoice. And now I can choose if I want a pre or if I want a post text. We have docs and master templates, but we will stick to that. I just want to have a post text here. You can filter by date, what makes sense, because yeah, holiday greetings or promotion is usually only for a special period. So you don't want any holiday greetings in April or later. So, and you can filter, of course, by the fields of the table in Business Central. So if you want to filter for a special customer group or yeah, a special country, you can do that as well. But we leave it blank here in our example. Next, what we need is we need the text that, yeah, the text that will be shown on our document. For that, I can click on Edit HTML. Michael sent me an email yesterday and told me I should create a post text and add that to our invoices. So what I can do now is, and that is so easy, I can just copy and paste it. So what I do here is I copy it. And now I can pasted. I keep it. And now you can see when you copy and paste text, images, and so on, everything comes across exactly as it is. You don't lose any part of it. Of course, you can still modify it if you want. But what we now do is we leave the text here, the formatting like it is, but I would like to add the website to it. So let's do that here. We can do that by just inserting the link. So I can insert the link, can give him the website, and I also can tell him that he should open the link in a new window when someone is clicking on it. So now I added the website. The next I want the salesperson name. But as you know, the salesperson field on the header only holds the code, not the name, but I need the name. To do that, I will add a related table. So let's close the window. Let's go back. And now you can see we have here the option to add related tables. I can add a new one, and I know the number, but of course you can search for it if you want. And now we need the relation for it. So first we need to tell them which table we are using to set the link, and that's the base table, the sales invoice header. And then we can add the relation. So you know we have the code in our salesperson table, and the next is the field in our sales invoice header. And for that we have the salesperson code. So it's done. Now we can go back to our text, and now we can add our salesperson name. I can do that by clicking the curly bracket or using the curly bracket. And now we can see we can add the fields for our base table, the sales invoice header, but we have also access to our fields from the company table and the sales purchaser table. Let me add it. So, and now we have the name on it. My post text is now ready. So let me show you how it looks. Go back. Now can open my posted sales invoice. Let me print it, preview. Here we go. And now we can see we have the text, the post text on our invoice. And as I mentioned, the same works for email templates as well. So you can create individual templates where not only the body text can be customized, but also the subject line. Let me go back to that. We have the new page, email templates, like we have the text templates. It's a little bit different to the other one, but not a lot. So what you can see here is you can also, when you click Edit HTML, you can also modify the subject line, and you can, of course, here add your text and add fields, links, and everything else, what I showed you. And what's so nice here is you can also add email addresses. You can use them from the customer table. But yeah, I don't want to show that now. But what I want you to show is I can go back to my posted sales invoice, and now I can send by email. And here you can see it's using the caption, and it's using the number of the invoice in the subject line. So you can modify the subject line and what I said, the text, of course. So that was a very short introduction. If you would like to see what else is possible with personalized content, we have on our coffee break, we have some coffee break videos on our YouTube channel. And if you want to know more about this, you can also reach out to us directly. So we are happy to show you everything it can do. That's from my side.
Thank you, Jennifer. And I'll switch over to you, Michael.
Thanks. Let me share my screen. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah, you can. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So as both Jan and Jennifer previously mentioned, that basically ForNAV is filling gaps in the Business Central product. But also in the latest years, Microsoft has left some new gaps due to the move to cloud. And one example is that before BC14 came out and Microsoft moved to cloud, it was possible to print directly from the clients. So you could simply select a printer or set up selecting a printer, and then everything would work automatically. But now that Microsoft has moved Business Central to the cloud, that's not possible anymore, because from the Microsoft Cloud you cannot reach the local printers you have on your own network, because that would entail that you open up the firewall completely. So as a response to that, Microsoft introduced something called Windows Universal Print, which comes from Windows, of course. But then we heard that for the partners who tried that, it's very hard to set up. You need to know about Active Directory, not just for Business Central, but also other parts of Windows. And then you need to have special printer drivers, and on top of that, it has a cost linked to it per print job. And then the way that Universal Print is created is that it has the function that's called file forget. That means that if you send out a print job, you don't know what happens with it, and troubleshooting that can be difficult. So based on that encouragement, we decided to look at the direct print and how to solve it the ForNAV way. And to do that, we had to come up with something that would be very easy to install, so anybody should be able to install it. It should be easy to use day to day and secure, and also whenever something happens, and that always happens with print, because of flaky printer drivers, or somebody changed the network part, or any other of these, something goes wrong and you have to fix it, and that has to be easy. But let me show you how this works. So first, you need to install a component, which is the ForNAV print service. You get that downloading the toolbox from the ForNAV web page. And that's a really simple install, and you have to do this, of course, per print server. So it has to be able to connect with the printers, either locally or network printers. In this case, it's the printers connected directly to my laptop. You can see I have these 5 printers in here. Once I'm done with that, I need to open a browser on the same machine as the print server is installed, and then I have to go to the direct print page up here. And then I can simply just start defining printers, and ForNAV will help you to get through the process. We'll create a new one, and if I click in the print queue box in here, I tells it I want to use the print server, and now I'm asked to download a config file that installs everything that's needed to run this. So I say yes, and since this is on my own PC, it will now open this dialog on the print server. You see it's around 10 seconds, and then basically updated, and now this print service is connected to Business Central. And the way we have designed this is that in order to secure your data, there's only a call through the firewall from the print server and out to BC. There's nothing that goes the other way. There's also nothing that goes through the ForNAV servers, because we know it's important that for customers that they are completely in control of the data. If we send something over the internet to a foreign server, people might be able to hack it, and then you can change the something like the bank account, so the payment goes into the wrong account. But even worse, somebody could mine the customer's data and steal the customers, and they even have the discounts and everything if they pick up the invoices. So again, nothing like that is possible, because everything is either on the print server, which is printing, or in BC, which is also under the control of the customer. So nowhere else is there's data lying around. So now this is set up, I can simply go back to Business Central and start using this. So now I'm connected to my print server from the cloud. This, I think, my cloud is in the Netherlands, so it's and my local machine is in Denmark, so distance is not a problem. So I can actually go and ask the print server for information to help set this up. So in here I can just do a lookup and pick up the local printers I have on my local machine, and I can select the first one up here, and then I can set up different properties out there. I can set up color and paper size and so on, but actually the most important one is out here, which is the paper source kind. And the detail behind this is that even though Microsoft has a list of all these different paper bins, upper bin, lower bin, and so on, the actual truth is that the main printer manufacturer is not using these, so they have their own set of paper bins. So what you need to do is to select printer specific, and then the question is, what is the upper manual feed of my big HP printer? Fortunately, the ForNAV is connected to the print server, so we can go and ask the printer which paper bins it has. So I can just again press lookup. Which in this case the bullshit printer has these different trays. If this was a big HP printer, I would say real names up here, but here's just trays on the printer. So once I'm done with this, I can now go and use the standard Microsoft dialog. When this is set up up here, I'll bring up the printer selection, which is a table that's been there forever in BC, so on. But I can go and now and set up things. Set up a new one where I pick that all users or reports need to print to my demo printer by default. And of course, you would expect that this works with ForNAV reports. So let me show you that this also works with the standard Business Central reports. That can be Word or RDLC, of course. So in this case, I'll run report 1306, which is the standard Word invoice report. And I can run that. You can see up here, it picks up, this is demo print up here, and now I can go and print it. And now it prints the report, and we should see that when it's get done, I'm just returned to Business Central. But this is also a demo. If you saw Jens' demo on how fast our invoice went, you can see that we are a lot faster than the built-in reports in Business Central, but that's a different story. So now if I go back to my print server in here, I can now go to printers and select the bullshit printer and open the print queue. And you can see that's this is from now. So everything is printed out seamless in the background, and you can return to your work. You can even do print in the background or from a device in L code. So you're back to what you could back post BC14 and really do printing in an efficient way. When something goes wrong in your print setup, that can be infrastructure or printer drivers or a combination of those. We also help you a lot because whenever we print, we enter information into the Windows event log, and in there we also sometimes put in URLs back to the ForNAV homepage. So if you know a given problem about a 8-bit driver that's flawed, then there's a link back to our web page, and we will tell you that this might be the problem and what you need to do. So there's also help in what you do, and also a lot of details on other aspects of what the error is. But of course, this is for system admins, because you have to be an admin on the Windows computer where your print server is. So in case you are an end user, you can also help yourself. So and in that case, I need to go to the print queue in here. And that's a page that's you have to have permission for it, because there can be confidential information in these prints in here. So it's only if you set up the person to have access to it, they can actually go and do something in here. But in here you see that all the print job has finished, but this could also enumerate an error out of paper. That's the easy one, but it can also be more complex stuff. then you can simply go out and fix this as an end user and restart it. You can also reroute this to another printer, or even go and download the print, so you can send it to the recipients as mail, or do something else with it. So even though this is late Friday afternoon, you can help yourself and get your job done without having to call you as a partner to get this fixed. So again, this is a print solution. So I think we managed to create something that's very simple to set up and use, and also to troubleshoot. And it runs in the background. And of course, this is part of the standard ForNAV license, so you don't have to pay extra to use the print solution like you have with the Microsoft solution. But just after we shipped that, the next question came up from our partners, and that is if you can access local printers, how about files? Because in the old days you could access local files from your Business Central and open them and write and read from local files, but that's not possible from the cloud anymore. So we expanded our print service also to double as a file service. And the way we did that was to create a code unit inside Business Central, where you as a developer can go in and code against this. So I can find the resources and documentation and go to this in here. So there's an actual code unit inside where we basically are able to do everything that you can also do in .NET and Windows. So everything you can do with directories or files, that can be byte watermark coding or code pages or whatever you can in the normal file API. You also can with ForNAV. And there's a comprehensive documentation on how to do this. So you can basically write the code that to do this. And we have had customers coding FTP servers and a lot of these different things that you want to do when you have these legacy file systems. But in order to also be able to showcase this inside BC, we actually found a scenario that's also been forgotten and by Microsoft. And let me show you how this works. So to get this started, you need to link a local file directory to BC. In this case, I have this public files directory in here with 3 PDF in here and a picture to use. And then, in real life, there would be subdirectories and well to use in here. Then you have to set up a config file on the print server to point to this. But once this is done, you can actually access these files from inside BC. And let me show you how this works. So I go to sales order in here and just pick a random one. Over here, there's the documents attachments in here, which is this has been renewed lately, but this has been there forever again, where you can attach files in here. And normally these files would sit inside BC and fill up the database. And the drawback of having a database is that it takes up space you have to pay for now on the cloud, but also it's hard to manage these files. It's much easier to do this on a local drive. So if I go and say I want to show the details in here and now attach a file, then this is again the standard Microsoft window for file attachment, but we have extended this so I get a pop-up of the files I can attach, and here I will select to use an existing ForNAV local files, and then from my BC server I can now connect to my local files here and link files in here. I can link as many of these as I want to, but let's just choose this one. And this is now stored again on my file share and not inside BC, so it doesn't take up any space in here. And if I go and modify it on my local drive, this will also pass through on Business Central. If I close this, I actually didn't want to close this, so let's show the details again. I want to scroll out here. Out here, there's a hidden gem of a feature that Microsoft created a while back, And what this does is that it basically takes the document that you have attached to a quote or an order, and then flows that through the order process to from the order to the invoice. And when you post it and send it, it'll actually when you send it as an email, it'll bring up the file from the local drive and then attach it to the email and then send it off when you use this feature. And only when you send it, it'll pick up the file. Otherwise, it will just reside on the file server. So typical uses for this is that you have a huge photo library, which you would never put into BC because you need to have a photo library and some software to use that. We also see people who use product information systems with a lot of text and product sheets and have a database for that. You also want to access that locally and use this in BC without importing it. So this is an addition to the print service, and it works together. And once you have one of them, the other just comes with a very easy install to do this. And again, it's included in the license. So this is a short introduction to the ForNAV print and file service. And the last topic I'm going to cover is our electronic invoicing story. And no matter where you are in the world, this will impact you. So I've just returned from the PEPOL conference in Brussels, where I attended together with Jennifer, and this is also coming to the US and other parts of the world. And what this is about is that instead of sending PDFs around, you in the future need to send an invoice. And fortunately, this is all built into Business Central, but BC itself is not able to support all these standards. So by now, e-invoicing is already mandatory in many countries. So the latest one was Belgium, where this is completely mandatory for all businesses. When they send invoices, they have to be electronic, both sending and receiving. And this is also the case in a lot of other countries. Most countries have their own standards for doing invoices, but the beauty of EU is that now there's a common standard is on the horizon, and that's also being tested in the US. And that standard is called PEPOL, which is a common standard can cover all of these. And besides it's being implemented by law in most of Europe, and there will be a new wave from 28 and forwards, where every country in US in Europe need to be able to send and receive invoices. Otherwise, you cannot get your money, and you need to send a copy to the authorities so they can see that you pay your taxes. And as an example, Germany is one of the front runners on this. So currently, there's a couple of formats where SUGFAT is the most interesting right now, because that's the dominating format in Germany, which is a PDF with a standard electronic invoice XML document embedded. And with ForNAV, you get that. And again, you guess it's part of the license to use this, so you get it for free if you already got a ForNAV license. The last one on the list in here is PEPOL, which we also support. This is an app on AppSource, but recently also Microsoft decided to ship our app together with Business Central. So when you get Business Central 28 for the cloud, you can simply enable the ForNAV PEPOL connector and then use that to communicate over PEPOL. And again, this is also part of the license, so no extra cost on that. But you also see this coming to other parts of the world. It's already implemented in Australia and New Zealand and Singapore and Hong Kong. But it also there's also partly go on in the US to use PEPOL. So this is something that eventually will be mandatory for most of the world to use, and you already got it with ForNAV. But Jan, I think we should go back to you and see if we got any questions so far.
Yeah, and so far we do not. But if you have questions, please enter them into the question tool.
Yeah, and today is midsummer, so it's not a problem that we stop early.
No. So while you have a chance to enter your questions, let me just quickly show just 2 slides for closing.
We actually have 2 questions, Jan.
We do?
Yeah.
Can you start while I'm changing here?
Says for the email templates, if currently in the report selection there's an email set up and the email template is added for the same document, I need to scroll. What will happen? Actually, Jennifer, do you remember what's the there's an order where this is checked because there's in the email templates there's a filter so you can set up which language is this should be used for and which period of date this should be used for. Oh no, I remember. So basically we look up the different filters for the email templates, and if nothing falls within those filters, it falls back to the old setup. But that also means if you don't have any email templates and you already use ForNAV and have already set up, that will work like it did. It's only if you start adding new email templates and setting filters, those will be calculated first, and it will pick up. So it's a natural way of doing it. I think there was another problem also. Yeah. So next question is, can you please share any details on the licensing cost?
Yeah, I guess that's me.
Yep.
So the one that most customers are selecting is the unlimited users and on the yearly basis, and that is 1,900 euro in based on subscription. If you have less than 20 users, you can also go with the per user option, which is 95 euro per user per year. And then of course we have a monthly option, and we have a small fee for the for additional production environments. So to close on this, and if you want to learn more, we have some e-learning available. We have a getting started and a fundamental course. They are both available on our website. So are our coffee breaks, which Jennifer mentioned earlier, 10-15 minute short videos on a specific topic. And if you want to try this yourself, it's very easy. You just need a Business Central sandbox. You need to install the report pack from Microsoft AppSource. If you want to modify reports, you can download and install the designer from our website. And then, of course, we encourage you to sign up and take the fundamentals e-learning. And when you install a trial version, you get a full version, and the only limitation is that we add a watermark with a trial message on all your reports. That basically means that you can try it as long as you want, and you can also start building reports if you want to use them actively live later. You just need a license that will open for this, so you don't need to redo anything or anything like that. So with that, for those who are going to celebrate Midsummer, at least here where I am, it's pretty nice weather for that. So have a good evening, and thank you for joining today. Goodbye.
Oof.